Just got done with another day up at Black River Motorsports Park. Today was a great day. I was actually on vacation the week before, so I don't have GoPro video or was recording anything today up there, but largely just went in with the only change being we changed the pulley on the alternator to make sure that I'm charging at idle now so that I don't have the battery draining over the day from idling and then needing jump start by the end of the day, which is good. That worked exactly how it should. It's charging 14.7 at idle, and we made it through the whole day. We did 7 runs in the morning, 9 in the afternoon, and it fired right up every time, no problem. So it's nice to have that little annoyance fixed. And we're moving on. We also kind of baselined the car in the morning with the settings coming away from down at the State Fairgrounds on the previous video. And we were quick out of the gate. It was definitely fast, and even after my 6th run, I was FTD for a while before finally getting knocked down by a little bit. And there was one other car that should have been faster than me too, but he kept coning, and even with the cone, he was I think it was a few hundredths behind me the way it worked out. So it was P2 for the morning. Real happy with that. It was really nice to show up, and then even though it's kind of the same usual suspects that were ahead of me or capable of being ahead of me anyway, the gap was smaller. And for the afternoon over the lunch break, I decided to go and make another rear suspension adjustment with the upper link in the rear. Went up another 2 holes in the front. And if you remember from last time, we were kind of playing with them down, and it really wasn't doing what we wanted. And then after driving that 240 SX, it kind of really made me start thinking about things in a different way. And I made the adjustment to go 2 holes up on the chassis side in the rear. And right out of the gate in the afternoon runs, my 3rd run, I shaved, what did I shave? I shaved, I thought I was 0.8 seconds. But actually, when I went back and looked at the board time, I actually think I shaved 1.2 seconds from the morning. It was a huge leap forward in what the car could do, and I was able to just keep backing it up in the afternoon, and it was really nice to see. It was just exciting to see that when I think a change should do something, and then we make it, and it does it. It's really satisfying, and I still got a little more adjustment. I can kind of keep going in that direction. However, I'm going to leave it alone for now. Since this is the beginning of this video, I'm going to include next weekend in it, which is going to be a doubleheader with the Minnesota Autosport Club down at the State Fairgrounds again. So it'll be nice to jump back into that competition where I'm probably going to be classed with more comparable cars, kind of a thing, as far as going to King of the Mountain. But this thing really needs some maintenance. I think I've actually almost gotten to, or for sure have done 3,000 miles on the oil change. This thing's just working so well, and I just love being able to drive it to events and stuff, and then race it all day and drive it back. So this needs an oil change. I know the transmission needs to be swapped out. Actually, the tail shaft is so bad it's spraying all over the mufflers right now and making smoke, and on D-cells I can just hear drive shaft rattling on there, which is why I got the rebuilt transmission that's sitting over there in the tube chassis. So at some point this week I need to get the transmission swapped, and I might as well just do all the fluids, do the rear end oil and and the engine oil, and just kind of do another once over on the car. It's been a while since I nut and bolt checked this thing. Should do that as well. As far as our tire change and testing from earlier this year, for honestly just getting these things for free and not really knowing what they were going to be, it was an unknown quantity to me. These GT radials are actually, I'm surprised. I'm duly impressed with them, actually. And I was real worried about it because they felt like they were taking an extra couple of runs to heat up and start working compared to the Falcons that I've been on for so long. And this morning, a lot warmer day today. I believe it got up to high 70s, low 80s maybe up there. And it was warmer right off the bat this morning. I think it was probably mid to upper 50s right away this morning. And first run, like, I could feel that they weren't quite, you know, doing their thing, but by second run they were working, and they worked all day long. And I'm glad that they did that. It's now making me start to kind of question, like, well, maybe I want to run these things again once I wear them out. I don't know. So it's kind of some stuff that's up in the air for me, although on Tire Rack, this size in a Falcon is on sale right now, so I could actually get a set for $1,000 or just over, compared to anything else that's on there in this size being more like $1,400 to $1,600 or more. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe I want to try the Falcons again in this bigger size, and maybe the characteristics I didn't like about the shorter Falcon are going to go away. That was kind of the whole point of doing this big sidewall. But I don't know. We'll see what I decide to do in probably the next couple weeks here. One other thing I tried today was running without the hood on. I don't know, kind of from last time I was up there at BRMP, I was kind of thinking that maybe I wasn't getting enough airflow into here, and it was kind of choking off my horsepower a little bit. And today I just wanted to kind of test that and pull the hood off for 3 runs at the end of the day, and results were, I mean, inconclusive. Like, I didn't beat my fastest time, and I still ran almost identical, or pretty much identical time to the 3 runs I'd done before that, you know, an hour earlier in the day, kind of a thing. So I mean, it's nice that I know that that's not becoming a choke hazard kind of a thing. However, with the strides that we're making with the rear suspension, and this car's like really starting to grip up well, and weirdly enough, everything that we're changing on the rear suspension right now is actually making my brake zones better, which is what I've really been after for a couple of years now, or been missing for a couple of years. And so it's just kind of getting better all around, which is really awesome. And it's almost to the point where I could probably use more power here pretty quick, depending on the course. The course we ran today was actually a pretty tight technical one, and more power really wouldn't have been of much benefit, but on a bigger course, if we're hooking up this well, some more power might be worthwhile. Nothing to see here at all. All right, back on our King of the Mountain prep. Well, actually, technically this is prep for North Star Speed Summit 1.0. It's been a while since I've done some maintenance on the car, so it really needs to get done. This is going to be the first time doing fluids this year. I'm pretty sure I have an actual 3,000 miles on this oil change, which is draining right now. And the transmission, I know second gear is getting crunchy. There's excessive backlash in the rear end. There's a whole bunch of play in it when it's in the car, so I got to tighten that up. Like that, the rear end's out and on the bench over there. Yeah, transmission's out. It's in front of the camera there. I got a new fully refreshed one ready to go in. That way I can just hot swap them here, other than it's not going to be so hot because there's a whole bunch of other things to do in the meantime. I need to tighten up my steering. The way it ended up when I did the rack swap in here, it ended up with a bunch of U-joints, and just over time some of the supports get a little loose. So that needs to be tightened up. While I'm at that, I should probably double check the rack itself, maybe pump some grease in there. Just check my brakes. They're getting down there, but they're not bad yet. I'll definitely get several more events out of them, but I mean, they're certainly wearing into the rotors, so pads and rotors need to be on my list of things to get here pretty soon. Just gonna kind of be going through the whole car, probably do a nut and bolt check on everything, although I haven't found a loose bolt on this car in quite some time. But nevertheless, it's good just to go through it, especially when I got it up in the air and it's easy to get at everything like this. If you've been following along with my rear suspension tuning, that upper link arm still has a lot of down angle to the front. Like a lot more than I thought there was going to be, especially with me going up in holes in the front. It's hard to see, but I mean, it's still pointing down pretty. Like I could go down 3 more holes on the back before it was actually level. You can see my lower arm's got a little upward travel. That's just kind of where we've ended up in a good spot for the rear suspension setup right now. As long as everything's apart, I should take the rear hubs off and clean them and put fresh grease in. Should probably do the same with the front hubs too, since it was last spring when last time I did that, so I haven't checked them in a while. My trackside repair shifter finally failed. I built this at Heartland Motorsports Park in fall of 22, so it's lasted a little over 2 years now. I think the bolts just loosened up and then it started banging back and forth as I was shifting, to the point where last weekend while autocrossing I noticed that it finally came super loose, even though I was still able to grab a gear with it. Ended up getting a different shifter that another guy, actually John, that I did the 5-speed Grand Marquis swap on. He had an extra shifter sitting there that I bolted on to get me through the rest of the day and drive home. But yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards just squeezing this back together and then reinforcing it with some washers just to connect and weld it, because it was a nice length and it's straight up off the top of the shifter. I really like that position, which is the big reason why I didn't screw with it after I made it, because it was a nice shifter. These Radial GTs have been holding up pretty good. I mean, I've been doing a lot of autocrossing lately, and they're still good on tread. Definitely getting a little heat on the outside edge, so maybe I need a little more camber in the front is what that's telling me, although I really don't want to mess with that too much because I kind of had this thing dialed in with the Falcons and where they would wear correctly. So I'm not sure if I'll stick with these. Honestly, these tires have been way better than I ever expected them to be. But the reality is that they are not a Super 200 extra sticky for trying to be competitive and autocross stuff. I mean, that being said, I've been able to get fourth, and third with the Max Series Mohawk and Cam T, and third place when I've been fourth, or second place when I've been third, is a couple of tenths. I've been real close. But then with messing around with all the different suspension changes and things we've been refining, I've actually been moving up the order when we're at Black River Motorsports Park, which is pretty cool. Granted, you know, it's just different mix and a lot of guys just there having fun, but there's definitely a few other guys that are really fast that show up for that, and it's nice to see that I'm getting more competitive with them. About to put the center section back into the rear end. I did find that the pinion was just a little bit loose, and I mean just the slightest tightening of the nut up here in the yoke got that taken care of. Then I checked the backlash, and even then it was still at 20 thou, which is probably too much. So I loosened up one of the caps and then just tightened up the clearance there a little bit. We're down to 11 thou, which would be pretty good. I'm pretty sure it was, you know, set somewhere around that before. And this is something I've been running into, especially with this pinion one. I think last year or the year before when I went through it, it was like I had to put like a full revolution in it for some reason because it was loosened up so much. I don't know if that's just that crush bearing is failing, but I thought I put the solid one in here. I don't know. It just seems like over time there that one loosens up. Or it has been anyway, although the longer it goes on, the less I have to adjust it. So it's just something to be aware of if you're doing your own and it goes through a lot of abuse, like my stuff does. It's something you're going to want to check on. And I mean, honestly, it's amazing how bad these can be and still survive. I had one where it backed out all of the ring gear bolts, which is why all these are safety wired now, because they had come out just far enough to clip the case, but all the threads were out, and then it just slipped the ring gear, and it didn't catastrophically destroy anything, which was pretty amazing. And it really wasn't making a whole hell of a lot of racket as far as me being able to notice that there was something wrong. But in this case, I had a lot of like on decel coming from what I thought was the tail shaft of the transmission with the yoke bouncing around like that bushing was wore out, but I'm willing to bet it was the rear end here at this point where it was just rattling on decel. You know, totally quiet under Excel and light cruise, no issues, so something to be aware of. Did I forget to pull the stud and the shift fork off this transmission before putting the other one in? Yes I did. But I caught myself before putting the whole thing back together this time. Yeah, you know, eventually with how many times I do this, I'll finally remember to do that. Or, more likely, I'm just going to get fed up about forgetting, and I'm just going to buy another adjustable stud and an extra fork. In other news, though, nice little hack for manual transmissions is fill the fluid from the shifter hole if you can. I can do it on this one because the aftermarket shifter, the stock style one, wouldn't allow me to do this other than if I pulled the whole floor boot off, in which case I could probably still do that even with the stock one. But this beats the heck out of trying to run a transfer pump or try to, you know, fill it with a bottle from the bottom, because here I can just set it up like that and pour the fluid in. It's just going through and repacking the wheel bearings in the back and checking out the axles and stuff. And this is the driver's side one that I just replaced a couple months ago. And it's about to let go. I'm glad it didn't so far, and to be fair, we have done a lot of track time on it. However, that is the most premature failure I've had on one of these, and that's not cool. I mean, it's barely hanging on right now, and I don't know. I have another one I made because I made a spare, so I guess we're going to put that on right away. But I suspect next weekend up at Rearend doing TTS, this thing would not have survived drag launches. So, yeah, that's super disappointing that that's shot already, but we've got a spare. We'll put it on right away, and I guess I gotta get some more. This one just, man, for it to fail that quickly, I'm almost wondering if it was just extra soft, or for how dry it is in there, I wonder if it just didn't pack enough grease in there. On the one that I just put on this side, like I really packed that thing with grease, because it was also sort of dry, but at least it would still, like, you know, a little smeary wet, versus this sucker's super dry inside. So we'll just hope for the best going forward. But they do make a harder version of those, but with all the welding and stuff on it, I'm pretty sure I'm ending up annealing it a little bit. So maybe I need to, I don't know, quench these things to harden them back up. But I don't know, I didn't have a problem with the first like 3 that I've done. They've lasted a lot longer than this. This one was put in March, so we'll just have to see how it goes. There you go, the valve covers popped off this morning. I'm going to be just going through and checking the lash on the engine. And I mean, those of you that followed along with this build before, it is a hydraulic roller cam profile, but we're running solid lifters because, quite frankly, there's not a quality Oldsmobile lifter out there for hydraulics. Especially in a small block fitment. The big blocks can use LS lifters, if you didn't know that. Just the link bar style. But for the small blocks, there's an issue with push rod shanking out on the lifter body itself during lift, so you can't run them on the small blocks. So it's pretty common actually to just use a hydraulic roller profile to be a little more easy on valve train parts, and then use the solid roller lifter and then run tight lash. So I'm just gonna go through and reset the lash. It's getting a little clattery, you know, so we should be able to pick up a little bit of power again too if anything's actually loose. And it's just another maintenance thing that I haven't done since, I don't even know if I did it last year. So probably did, yeah, I did at least once last year, because last year we were fighting all the misfire issues. But it's probably been at least a year, almost a full year. So And I've gotten more miles on the car since then than I have any previous time between Lash settings. So we're just gonna make sure we can check it out before going to the track next weekend. So if we're going through Lash, I just turned the motor over a little bit and we had the intake rocker closing, which means we can set the exhaust rocker. You can see right now it's got play loose in it. 6 is what it should be set at, and yeah, the thing goes in there and there's all kinds of room. So it's definitely time to make an adjustment here. When we go to adjust the intake, we want to have the exhaust opening, and that is to make sure that we're on like opposite ends of the cycle. So if the intake is closing, it's coming to compression, which means for sure the exhaust is fully closed and on its base circle. And then the opposite is true. When the exhaust is opening, we've just come after the combustion cycle, and we know that for sure the intake valve is still closed. We'll just need a couple of tools to run through this, and then we'll put the valve covers back on, put the engine bay brace back in, and we're going to be pretty close to getting ready to load it up. For fun, I fit the 18 by 11 wheels onto the car, and those have Hoosier A7s in a 295/30 versus we've got a 295/40 on the car, and it's almost hilarious how small they are compared to the wheel well opening, just because, I mean, you can see how much shorter that tire is. That tire is, I think, 25-inch overall outside diameter versus a 27.5-ish for the 40 sidewall. But mostly I wanted to see if those wheels are going to fit. Everything clears in the front. It's just I know for sure we're going to end up with a limited steering angle. In the back, we are a little bit tight to the body in a couple places. I did hammer the fender a little bit with that. Not the outside fender, it'd be the inner fender area. Or inside body. And then if I ever did want to run those there, the wheel just hits the lower control arm bracket on the rear end. I'd have to grind some clearance into it. But I mean, they'd go on the back, no problem. It'd be just a matter of whether or not it would be taking away too much steering angle in the front, which might be a trade-off. If the tires got more grip, we might not need all that steering angle, but I don't know, it's just good to know, because probably want to go to a wider wheel at some point anyway, just to be able to stretch tires and make them work a little bit better. Alright, finished up with maintenance on the car. Trying to prep the trailer and get that ready right now. Already fixed the wiring, I've been cleaning it out. Now I need to air up tires and stuff like that in order to get it ready. But I don't know, I'm not gonna have time to build a new splitter for the front. I don't think it's gonna happen, and sounds like we might get some hail later tomorrow, so I need to get that thing back inside, and probably the wife's car, just to make sure we don't have anything bad happen to those. But otherwise I'm trying to get loaded up and ready for Brainerd this weekend.